Hello, and thank you for your interest in working with the Cincinnati Metropolitan Housing Authority. My name is Ashley Claricus. I'm the Procurement Assistant Director here at CMHA, and I'm going to be talking about how to submit a quote to our agency. The agency uses a quotations for small purchases or QSP procurement process to procure contracts with a maximum spend of $50,000 or a maximum time limit of 3 years, whichever comes first. This is different from our request for proposals or RFP process, which is for solicitations over $50,000. There are additional training videos on our website that can show you how to submit a proposal in response to an RFP. When you're looking at the available solicitations, which can be accessed on our website by clicking the drop-down under Business Opportunities here and selecting Current Solicitations, you'll find the QSP documents are all posted on the website for your review. When you open this, make sure that you're looking at each of the documents, downloading and saving them as necessary. These documents are important to read before you decide whether to respond to the solicitation. First, you'll need to review the QSP document, which has important information such as due dates, the procedure to ask questions if you have any about the solicitation, and also the evaluation criteria, which shows how the quote you submit will be evaluated and scored. Next is the scope of work in attachment A. This lists the type of work required, so make sure you review it closely to see if it's a good fit for your company. It also has the performance standards, which may specify the quality or the time for the work to be completed. Next is the terms and conditions document in attachment C. These are the legal terms and conditions for the agency, and you will be required to sign off on them in order to be awarded a contract. Some of the most important provisions in this section are the insurance requirements, which you will have to provide compliant insurance before a contract is issued. Also the payment terms, which goes over the invoicing process, and the drug test and background check requirements for your employees. When you're reviewing the QSP document, you'll notice in section 4.0 that there's a breakdown of the format of your quote. This is different for each QSP document, so make sure that you are reviewing it for each individual solicitation you respond to. First item you will submit is your fee submission form, then your references and experience and qualifications statement. Next, may require you to submit a Section 3 documentation paperwork packet. This is only required for certain types of work. Again, review the QSP document to see if this is required. Next is the contract acceptance form, and finally, you'll include any copies of applicable license for these scopes of work. First, let's look at the fee submission form. This is an example of a fee submission form, but each one is different. So again, please review each individual solicitation to see what the requirements are. Most of our solicitations require a firm fixed price that is inclusive of all of your costs to provide the service. This includes your profit and your overhead, so any bookkeeping or office supplies, clerical support, etc. Some solicitations break out that materials will be reimbursed for separately, but several of our solicitations require all materials to be included in your cost. You'll want to look closely at the form to make sure that you're giving a correct price. You'll notice for this one, under firm fixed price column, the first section wants a price per word, and the second, third, and fourth want a price per hour. Make sure that you're reviewing this closely. Finally, in the additional services section, if your company provides related services that may not be asked for in this scope of work, you can provide a description of those services and an hourly rate for them here. Next is your references form and also your experience summary. This is a 2-page form. It's very important to complete both pages in order to have a responsive quote. The first page asks for references for a similar scope of work. You'll see here that if you have worked with CMHA in the past, you must include us as a reference. Once you complete the reference form, the second page is the experience and qualifications summary. This is different, again, for each QSP document, so you'll want to review the document closely to see what types of information you can include here. You can answer in the space below on this form, Or if you need more room or you want to use a different format, you are welcome to just attach more information to this form. For your experience and qualifications summary, you'll need to address the evaluation criteria that's listed in the QSP document. This is an example of what we generally use for QSPs. You'll notice here that the experience and the project management sections are worth 50% of the final score. So it's very important that you put a lot of time and effort into responding to this part of the solicitation, as it could be the difference between being awarded or not being awarded a contract. For experience here, it's asking for firms' experience in the operation of projects of this or greater scope. Simply completing the reference page is not enough to meet this requirement. We do need a description also of how you've completed similar projects in the past. For project management ability and quality assurance, it says describe how projects with multiple sites and employees will be managed and how quality will be ensured. Again, make sure that these items are both addressed when you're putting together your experience and qualifications summary. Next is the Section 3 portion. Section 3 is a program from Housing and Urban Development, which provides a majority of CMHA's funding. The HUD Act of 1968 was created to ensure that economic opportunities generated by HUD to the greatest extent feasible will be directed to low and very low income persons, particularly those receiving assistance for housing. Section 3 business concerns are owned at least 51% by a Section 3 resident, or 75% or more of the business labor hours of the business are performed by low or very low income persons. Or it can be that it's 51% owned and controlled by current residents of public housing or our housing choice voucher assisted housing. Again, Section 3 is only required for certain types of work, generally maintenance and also cleaning services. The Section 3 required forms are listed here. This is from the first page of the Section 3 packet. You have the Section 3 Assurance of Compliance and Section 3 Clause, the Section 3 Action Plan, Section 3 Certification for Preference, and Preference Category Acknowledgement for Section 3 residents. On the Certification for Preference form, it will ask if you are a Section 3 business concern and ask for you to mark a Category 1, 2, or 3, or not applicable. If you mark 1, 2, or 3, you must have an active Section 3 registration at the time your quote is submitted. If you're not sure if your registration is still active, or you want to become a registered Section 3 business concern, or if you have any other questions about Section 3, please contact Section 3 at CMHA.com. The next form that's required is the contract acceptance form. You'll need to sign in several places on page 1, and you'll also need to sign on page 2 of this form. As you can see, this is a snapshot of page 1 of the form. There are several attachments that you will need to sign off on in the blocks provided below for the statement of work, the fees, the contract terms and conditions, and Section 3 if applicable. Finally, in your quote, please include any copies of applicable license. First, you need to ask, is a city or state licensure required for this type of work? And if it is, make sure you're attaching both the individual and company licenses for the individuals that will be working on this project. A final check to do before you submit your quote is it legible? Is it free of spelling and grammar errors? And is it complete with all required documentation? Make sure you have the forms in order, as this will help the evaluators review your quote. And check to make sure that it's legible. We do prefer that you type if you're able to. Finally, you'll need to submit on time to CMHA your quote documentation. At this time, we are only accepting electronic quote documents, which you will email to procurement@CINTIMHA.com. Your email must be received prior to the due date and time, which means it needs to be sent beforehand. If you're able to, please send it as early as possible. If you have any other questions about how to submit a quote, please reach out to procurement@CINTIMHA.com. It is worth noting here that although procurement cannot help you with certain aspects of completing the quote documentation, such as determining your price or what specific information to include in each part of the form, we can make referrals to other local agencies that can help you with this. So again, please reach out if you need referrals or if you have any other questions. Thank you.